Well, there's no denying that the Nintendo Switch has been an absolutely historic console for Nintendo, and as we edge closer to the end of 2023, I thought it would be a good idea to look at and discuss where Nintendo is headed from here, specifically with this platform, as we talk about all of the emerging reports that suggest that 2024 is likely the year we will see them transition to new hardware. What does that leave for the roadmap of games in terms of Nintendo Switch content that we have to look forward to, and what announced and unannounced games might we be able to expect from Nintendo in this transition phase? And I also want to tackle the conversation of what we should expect when it comes to cross-generational releases and whether or not Nintendo is the type of company that may continue to release next-gen first-party developed games both on the Switch that we have today and the new console, or if history shows us that they may indeed be more of the type that just straight up cuts off support once they get their new console out the door. And I want to first start off this conversation by going through Nintendo's official release schedule for the Switch that we have on their website today. And before we do hop into all of that, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you haven't done so already. And right at the top of the list, we do have some games that are already available in addition to some special edition consoles, because it lists the beginning of November. We're already at the 5th of November at the time of recording this video. And of course, you have a couple Nintendo Switch Lite editions that you can look forward to that are come bundled with Animal Crossing New Horizons. And I really think that the bundles we're seeing this year, with the repeat offender of the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundle with the base model console, in addition to the Switch Lite bundle with Animal Crossing, and then even an OLED bundle heading to us later on in November that will also pack in Mario Kart 8. These are all more signs that Nintendo is trying to shift as much of their existing inventory out of the warehouse as possible. They, of course, want to have a very successful holiday sales season, but I also believe that the inclusion of things like the OLED model being in their bundled promotions this year for the first time really indicates that they want to clear out their abundance of stock on the three models that we know today, because yes, they're ramping up absolutely for new hardware to be sold on the market. Scrolling on down just a little bit, we already have Pokemon Scarlet and Violet DLC 1 playable right now, and we recently got the announcement that DLC 2 will actually be launching on December 14th. Now, there is some reason to be a little bit upset with the Pokemon Company and the state of Scarlet and Violet. They're fantastic games, but there's no doubt that the performance is a mess on them. There really is just unacceptable frame drops, bugs, and glitches, some of which have been patched out, other ones have not, but they definitely weren't the smoothest release for the Pokemon Company. And here we are buying additional content for them without any real kind of performance fix when it comes to the core of how these games run. Nonetheless, they are wildly successful. They're very fun adventures to play through, and I do think that that open world progression is absolutely a great fit for Pokemon. So the fact that we're getting both of those DLCs released in the year of 2023 was a little bit of a surprise to me. I was definitely thinking that the winter 2023 claim might have actually indicated that even though the year 2023 was discussed, that maybe we could have seen that slide into a January or February release date. But the Indigo disc you will be able to hop into and download as of December 14th next month. Now, skipping right past WarioWare Move It, that's already been available as of November 3rd. We have their biggest release on the 17th for the month of November, which is none other than Super Mario RPG, a classic blast from the past from the SNES era with a brand new coat of paint. I'm really glad Nintendo decided to slow down and give this one the proper remake treatment that it deserves. It's arguably received as one of the best RPG games of all time, and of course, if you have nostalgia for it, you're probably going to enjoy it that much more. The visuals look beautiful, and we don't have to wait that much longer to actually be able to pick this game up. And while that could indeed wrap up the big releases for 2023 from Nintendo, there is also a lot of rumors and speculation going on online suggesting that there may be something like a Zelda remake or remaster in the pipeline. This is actually coming from multiple sources. First, Jeff Grubb stated that he heard something else Zelda was coming in 2023. We then, of course, got the Oracle games on NSO. He went back and forth on those potentially being it for a moment, but then clarified that he thought it was something different than that. To be fair, he never said it would be a game, so we don't know if it's really just a small announcement. He just heard that something else Zelda would be happening this year. And then we had most recently Dr. Suriken Toto make a tweet that said ZR 2023, which caused a lot of speculation because he tweeted something similar to that before the release date of Tears of the Kingdom, saying Z 2022, and that was retweeting the Nintendo Direct tweet that was actually the presentation that we learned that Zelda Breath of the Wild 2, or the sequel to Breath of the Wild as they were calling it at that time, would be a 2022 game. Well, we of course now know that that game launched in 2023, but the original plan was 2022, and it was even shown to us in a trailer that it would be attempted by Nintendo to give us that game in the year of 2022. So whether or not that ZR 2023 means that we should expect a remake this year or not, I don't know. We also have Zippo chiming in on this, which I really couldn't care less about. Their track record's so all over the place. I don't really think, even if they have some kind of knowledge, I think it's more likely that they're just hopping on the talk being online, and that's why they're saying it. But there's some reason to believe that maybe Wind Waker and Twilight Princess might finally be coming, or something to the effect of a Zelda Ocarina of Time remake could also be in the works. And I would love to see that. Technically doesn't have to release this year, but maybe we would learn about it this year. And I think all eyes will be on the Game Awards happening in December if we are to expect anything Zelda to happen in the rest of this Nintendo Switch generation that we find ourselves in. From there, we have a game that I'm not really familiar with myself. I know there may be some fans out there of Another Code Recollection, which is essentially a collection of two different Another Code games. I believe one of them was on the Wii and one of them was on the DS or 3DS, and they look like very heavy story-driven games with a lot of puzzle solving and stuff involved. Not the biggest thing that I will be paying much attention to, but that is the big Nintendo Switch game for January that we know of right now. Now, when we talk about a month like February, we may be able to expect a new Nintendo Direct to fill out a lot more of this release schedule, but we do at least know that on the 16th of February, as of right now, we will be getting Mario vs. Donkey Kong, which is essentially a remake slash remaster of the classic Game Boy Advance Mario vs. Donkey Kong. This is a series that I haven't really gotten into at all over the years, and I will be giving it a fair shot when we do see it finally launch, because I really like the visual presentation, the style, everything that it has to offer. It's definitely not your typical Mario or Donkey Kong game. It's kind of a strategy platformer, I guess you could say, but it's intriguing enough to me, and one that I will be checking out when it does launch on the Nintendo Switch in early 2024. Now then we have Princess Peach Showtime, which surprisingly, we have a Princess Peach game that Peach is your main protagonist. These are few and far between. We had one on either the DS or 3DS, whichever one that was. I believe just the regular DS, but this game looks interesting enough. They're definitely doing a lot to liven up Peach with various different costumes. It kind of looks like there's essentially like a stage performance going on, but Peach, depending on which costume she is, has different abilities, whether she's a sword fighter or martial arts style or detective. There's a lot of different variety going on with Peach and how she'll interact with the characters in the world. So we have that to look forward to on the 22nd of March in 2024. And then we have these two titles on the release date that is to be determined, which is both Luigi's Mansion 2 HD, previously known as Dark Moon, on the 3DS. It is getting a nice little spruce up when it comes to the visuals. They definitely did more than just up-res the 3DS game. If you look at the textures and the individual renders of everything that's on screen, they actually put in a lot of work if you go side by side with the 3DS version of this game compared to the Switch version. So that's very exciting. We know that it's a summer 2024 timeframe, but don't know anything outside of that. And then of course, finally on the official release schedule from Nintendo, Paper Mario: A Thousand Year Door, which I originally believed would be a later into 2024 game, but we did have a recent report that the ESRB has now rated this game on the ratings board officially, which may cause you to believe that maybe it will be a little bit earlier in the year of 2024. It's entirely possible that this game drops anywhere from the months of like April to September even. It would be surprising if Nintendo pushes it out all the way till September. It really probably just depends on what their broader strategy is for launching their next generation hardware, and I think that that's a perfect pivot point to talk about what they will do in terms of supporting both the Nintendo Switch and their next gen hardware simultaneously, because I do think that if we get next gen hardware earlier into 2024, like some reports suggest that Nintendo is keen on the idea of launching it sooner rather than later if they can source the stock and things that they need of the console. If we're talking about a mid-year release for new Nintendo Switch hardware, I could see a world with these games that are to be determined with their release dates could actually launch on both platforms, where we would see a version come out for the base Switch and then essentially a 4K up-res version via DLSS or whatever tech Nintendo is using, an official Nintendo Switch 2 version, or Super Nintendo Switch, let's hope they call it. That is entirely possible, but I do think that there's one game that's on Nintendo's roadmap that's more likely to launch as a cross-gen title than any other, which is none other than Metroid Prime 4. We know that there's a ton been going on with this game in terms of its development history, but when it comes to Retro Studios and what they can do from a visual standpoint, I do think that they are a unique studio that Nintendo can utilize as somebody who can really showcase what their new hardware is capable of doing. We may also see stuff like Prime 2 Echoes and Prime 3 Corruption potentially brought over as HD ports, maybe even in a combo pack similar to what we saw Nintendo do with Pikmin 1 and 2, where it's kind of a little bit more the vanilla versions of those games, but just given a simple HD upres, and maybe they shadow drop at the February Direct. Then when we talk about that September-October timeframe when potentially the new console launches, I think that personally makes the most sense timeline-wise, and they may indeed have Metroid Prime 4 be that cross-generational release that comes out on the old console and the new one. But outside of that, I do believe that Nintendo, out of anybody else, is a company that does believe in generations, that won't just tell you that, like Sony tried to claim that they wouldn't be coming out with any PS4 games after the PS5 came out. They believe in generations, that all the stuff was only possible with the power of the PlayStation 5. And then we saw like God of War Ragnarok and all of these major releases for years and years be supported on both platforms. I think Nintendo actually will make the hard line in the sand cutoff after maybe one or two cross-gen games. Will we continue to see third-party support for the existing Switch for years to come? Most likely, yes, as long as it is not graphically too demanding to run on the base console. But when it comes to first-party Nintendo games, when they switch generations, they really try to push you to the new hardware right away. And that's why I think we find ourselves in a very interesting era of the Nintendo Switch. As of March 2024, it will have been a full 7 years available on the marketplace. And I do think that we are in that transition period sooner rather than later, and it will just be very interesting to see how Nintendo goes about it. But that's my 2 cents on all of this. I want to hear from you guys at this point in the video, your personal thoughts and opinions with Nintendo's release schedule so far and where you think they're headed from here. Do you think that we can expect a period of time to be cross-generation supported when it comes to first-party games? Or are you like me and you think maybe 1 or 2 games gets launched as a cross-gen title, but for the most part, first-party games will all start to be moved exclusively to that new next-gen hardware? And what, if any, games that we talked about today in this current situation we find ourselves in on current Nintendo Switch hardware are you most excited for? So regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before we leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch yesterday's video next if you haven't already, which is on screen right now. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.